In Peru, the Congress refused the motion to withdraw President Dina Boluarte on the grounds of her permanent moral incapacity following the deaths occurred in protests against her. In Mexico, President López Obrador asked his Chinese counterpart collaboration to curb the illegal production of fentanyl. And in the United States, former President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty to 34 criminal charges in a Manhattan criminal court on Tuesday. Hello and welcome to teleSUR English. I am Estefania Bravo from the headquarters of Quito in Ecuador. This is from the South. On Tuesday, the Peruvian Congress rejected a request to remove President Dina Boluarte for permanent moral incapacity due to death threats that occurred during the protests against her that began in early December. Only 37 lawmakers voted in favor of the request, while 64 voted against and 10 abstained. At least 52 votes were needed for the motion to be passed. The majority decision of lawmakers shelved the request, and a reconsideration vote shortly thereafter was also rejected. Leftist legislator Hamlet Echeverria, one of the promoters of the request, had argued that there are plenty of reasons for the dismissal. In Ecuador, at least 3 prisoners were killed and another was injured after a new riot in Guayaquil prison. Authorities reported that the clashes began in the afternoon, and the National Service of Attention to Persons Deprived of Their Freedom activated the necessary security protocols to address the situation. In the confrontation, the National Police and the armed forces acted in coordination with the security forces for the penitentiary complex. In Ecuador, the impeachment trial against President Guillermo Lasso, a historic process in the country, is underway. From Quito, our correspondent Henry Pillajo has more.
In the National Assembly, the impeachment process has already started. On Monday, the Oversight Commission officially got the request that seeks the dismissal and censure of Guillermo Lasso for the crime of embezzlement, a process that officially begins when the parties get notified.
The Commission is going to ask the parties to detail and single out the evidence they want to produce at the trial so that, on the one hand, the President may exercise his right to defense, and on the other, the Commission may correctly request the corresponding evidence ex officio, and they have 10 days for that.
This process is taking place after the Constitutional Court issued an admissibility report for embezzlement, one of the 3 charges filed against President Lasso. Now, there are deadlines to evaluate the evidence for the prosecution and the defense.
Assembly members may present the evidence they wish. We, as an Oversight Commission, we have the obligation to evaluate the evidence, only concrete evidence related to the embezzlement charge.
After the process of substantiating evidence by the prosecution and the defense, this same commission will prepare a report on whether they recommend the impeachment trial. Then the report will be debated in the plenary of the National Assembly.
The prosecution as well as the President have to respect due process, singularize this evidence, present the evidence for the prosecution and the defense, and submit it in due time before the Commission. And since the Commission is neither a criminal nor a constitutional court, it must adhere to what the law says.
On his part, President Guillermo Lasso is proclaiming his innocence on every interview or address.
There's been no embezzlement, and I can prove it. Here I have the documents that prove that they want to try me for actions by the previous administration.
Analysts say the crisis and uncertainty the country is going through is a reflection of the government's own inaction.
It is a crisis in different aspects, precisely caused by inaction and lack of efficiency, in some way, in what corresponds to the public administration led by the President of the Republic, Guillermo Lasso.
Ultimately, the motion for a political trial against the incumbent president needs to be approved by 92 of the 137 assembly members.
Henry Pillajo, teleSUR, Ecuador.
Mexican president asked his Chinese counterpart for help in halting chemicals from China used by Mexican drug dealers to illegally produce fentanyl. The president sent a letter requesting greater coordination between the two countries to obtain timely information on the movement, timing, origin, and destination of the substance and the entities acquiring the substance. AMLO explained that this substance is highly addictive and psychologically devastating.
We come to you, President Xi Jinping, not to ask you for support in the face of these blatant threats, but to ask you, for humanitarian reasons, to help us control the shipments of fentanyl that may be sent from China to our country. For example, it would be an invaluable support to have information on who imports this substance, in what quantity, in which vessels, when they leave the Chinese ports, and which Mexican ports they arrive at, and the specific type of substance.
Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard said that according to official figures, the United States is the largest trafficker of fentanyl.
The senator says that practically we Mexicans are not only the origin of the problem, but we are also the ones who traffic. We carry and bring the fentanyl, but according to the figures in the United States, as Mr. President has just commented, 86.3% of the people in prison are U.S. citizens. I repeat the figure, 86.3%. Therefore, the fact that Mexicans are the ones who cause the problem, even in the United States, they traffic, carry, and bring is also false, because these are official figures. 86.3% are citizens of the United States.
We're taking our first break now, but also don't forget to follow us on our TikTok account at teleSUR English for more news in different formats. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday, former President Donald Trump spoke from Florida after he personally pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in Manhattan. In his speech, he stated that the FBI and the Department of Justice are constantly pursuing Republicans and made reference to the 2020 elections.
The FBI and DOJ relentlessly pursuing Republicans. The unconstitutional changes to election laws by not getting approvals from state legislators. The millions of votes illegally stuffed into ballot boxes and all caught on government cameras. And just recently, the FBI and DOJ in collusion with Twitter and Facebook in order not to say anything bad about the Hunter Biden laptop from hell, which exposes the Biden family as criminals and which, according to the pollsters, would have made a 17-point difference in the election result. And we needed a lot less than that, like about 16.9.
Former President of the U.S. also gave his opinion about what he considers to be some of the most shameful and failed aspects of the current administration.
The world is already laughing at us for so many other reasons, like our open borders, our incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan, where we left behind American citizens, $85 billion worth of the best military equipment in the world, lost 13 magnificent young lives, and far too many to mention that are so badly hurt with the loss of arms and legs and facial obliteration. The most embarrassing time in our country's history, in my opinion.
In addition, former President Donald Trump referred to the negotiations with the National Archives and Records Administration regarding the possession of classified documents found at his Mar-a-Lago residence.
Under the Act, I'm supposed to negotiate with NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration, which as of this date is a radical left troublemaking organization that red flags the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights as dangerous and triggering. Can you imagine? This is what we have to deal with. But there is no criminality under the Presidential Records Act. That is not what it's all about. We were negotiating in very good faith, proper way, in order to return some or all of the documents that I openly and in very plain sight brought with me to Mar-a-Lago from our beautiful White House, just as virtually every other president has done in the past.
Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez visited Cyprus and said Madrid strongly supports Cypriot reunification. The statement was made during a bilateral meeting in Nicosia with Cyprus President as part of the preparatory tour for the Spanish presidency of the European Union Council, which will begin in July. Both leaders stressed the international uncertainty that Europe is facing as a result of the Ukraine conflict and agreed that the unity of the member states is the best tool to build a just and lasting peace. Russia's investigative committee accused Daria Tripova of terrorism as the main suspect in the explosion that killed military blogger Vladimir Tatarsky on Sunday. Tripova was accused of committing a terrorist attack with an explosive device as part of the organized group. Russia's investigative committee formalized the indictment on Tuesday and requested that the accused be remained in custody until June 2nd. The suspect admitted on Monday that she handed over the statue that triggered the detonation in a St. Petersburg cafe. And the meeting of Syrian, Russian, Iranian, and Turkish deputy foreign ministers began on Tuesday in Moscow. The Syrian delegation stressed the need to end the illegal Turkish presence on Syrian territory, non-interference in Syria's internal affairs, and the fight against terrorism in all its forms. The day before, the Syrian deputy minister of foreign affairs and expatriates, Ayman Solsan, held a meeting at the headquarters of the Russian foreign ministry in Moscow with Mikhail Bogdanov, the special representative of the Russian president, and the deputy minister of foreign affairs. And also, don't forget that teleSUR English is continuing to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries via StarSat. Let's take our last break now. Don't go away. And welcome back to From the South. In Palestine, at least 80 people were injured after an attack by Israeli forces in the AlAqsa mosque. This aggression comes in the middle of Ramadan, the Muslim community's holy month. According to local media, Tel Aviv regime forced fire, tear gas, and stun grenades at the Qibli prayer hall at the AlAqsa mosque. They also reported that another group of people were arrested during the Israeli repression. On Monday, at least 12 people have been killed and several others injured in a series of attacks in northeastern and central Nigeria, officials said. In the state of Adamawa, unidentified gunmen burst into the village of Dabna in the district of Hong, killing 3 people, according to the spokesman of the local police, Suleiman Nijori. Also on Monday, suspects attacked localities in central Kogi state. The governor's spokesman, Mohammed Onogu, claimed that a local politician was killed and others were affected by these attacks. And on Monday in Mogadishu, Somalia, a convoy of African Union peacekeepers has been hit by an explosion. According to a local security officer, the explosion was caused by a landmine planted near the road. Reports suggest that at least 3 civilians who were in the vicinity lost their lives. Troops from the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia had been conducting their daily patrols when the attack occurred. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack, but an affiliated terrorist group has claimed responsibility for recent attacks in the Horn of Africa. A new provisional death toll from the Marburg virus outbreak that has been raging for more than 2 months in Equatorial Guinea has reached 10 confirmed deaths, the health ministry said. On Sunday, it was announced that there were 14 positive cases and 10 hospitalized. However, a new death has been reported, bringing to 10 the provisional death toll since the beginning of the epidemic of the virus. A total of 604 people in contact are being monitored. In South Africa, more than 200 activists gathered outside the Ugandan High Mission to demonstrate against the anti-gay bill recently passed by Ugandan lawmakers. The activists, led by South Africa's leftist Economic Freedom Fighters opposition party, urged Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni not to sign the bill into law. Homosexuality is outlawed in Uganda, but the recent bill has introduced harsh punishments for several acts, including the death penalty and up to 20 years of imprisonment. In Senegal, the president Macky Sall said in a speech on state TV that he was open to dialogue in the interest of peace and national cohesion. The president stated that he remains open to dialogue and consultation with all the living forces of the nation in respect of the rule of law and the institutions of the Republic for United Senegal, a Senegal of peace, stability, and national cohesion. Speculation is rife that Macky Sall will seek a third term, a move the opposition has warned would jolt the political climate in one of the West Africa's most stable countries. Tensions have risen in recent weeks and months, with the opposition organizing rallies denouncing corruption and the high cost of living. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also be sure to follow us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Until next time.